Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for Journaling on a Budget, Memory Lane. So today we are going to work a little bit on the town and put in some railroad tracks. And then next week I think we're going to go to working on one of the pages in our book so that it's not all map all the time. So we had the gas station and I decided that I wanted to change on our map. We had the gas station next to town, and I decided I wanted to change the gas station into a school and not put the playground behind the houses. And so that's what I'm going to do. Now, I'm not so sure if this is going to be our school or if I'll make another one or not. That I think does make a cute school, but we'll see about that. And then I got the signs on all of the stores, and I wanted to show you what I did was first I just had a piece of cardstock, and all I did was I had some brown paint sitting here. Actually, it was watered down paint that I was dyeing some things with, and so I just stuck my finger in the paint and I just went like this on my paper. That's all I did. I just kept sticking my finger in the paint and just doing a little more until I had a nice section so that I would have kind of like some wooden signs. I did take a brown permanent marker and make a few very light straight lines across, but they don't really show up once I put because I put the lines on first and then I put the brown on. They don't really show up, but I know they're there, so kind of make it look like pieces of wood. And then I wanted to show you, because I do have them all done, but it's it's like, okay, I decided that the school was going to be Happy Days Academy. And so I wrote it on there, but I didn't like that really dark spot there where I felt like I couldn't read it. It was very squished. And, I tried a thinner marker. I didn't like the looks of that. So, and I would cut strips out and then write the store name on there and then cut it out after I did that. That helped me get the whole thing instead of cutting a piece first and then trying to put the name on. But then sometimes the names were too long or too squished or whatever. So just so that you know, yes, I have the signs done, but it takes a while. It takes a while of playing this way and that way. I tried outlining with black, and I really didn't like the outline with the black. And this one was kind of like it was squished together, so I tried putting gold on top of it, and I didn't like that. So, the whole thing is play around with it till you get one you like. It's not like the first one you have to do, oh, I kind of messed that up. Oh, that's terrible. I made the signs not on my map so that when I got the one I liked, I could glue it on. And, then you don't have to worry about it. If you put it right on your map and you don't like it, cover it up with something. Cover it up with a different sign. So just know that I didn't do this in just a few minutes. Actually, that's why I went ahead and I just finished it, because it was taking so long. It was like there was no way that I was going to be able to do it and have it to where the video would have been so long to make a few signs. So this is what they turned out looking like. So we've got the candy store, and I just put a little like couple circles in the corners for like rivets. Then we have the toy store, and I wanted to do these kind of little like arrow things sticking out from the building to hang the sign on. And so the first thing I did was I colored some solid black, and I actually cut them out. And it was really hard to cut them out. So then I thought I would just be brave, and I used my pen because I already knew kind of like the shape I wanted. And so I went ahead and I just drew it on there with my black marker, just put some little dots all the way down like for a chain, and then glued the sign below it. So there's the toy store, the fashion store. Again, some little rivets in the corner. The art store, I wanted the sign to be a little bit different. And so I just made it a different shape, kind of to match the roof. Originally, I was going to put it up there on the roof, but I liked it better in line with all the rest. And with that one, I just put like some little circles for a chain right from the roof, and then the hardware store. And again, I drew this on here, and once I got a hardware store sign that I liked, it got glued on. So this was drawn and this was glued. So, but I liked the way that they turned out. I kind of, did them in different colors. This one matches the doorway, and like the rest of them they all are in the browns, but this one I went over top of a little bit with some pink, but it still was done on the brown wood looking paper. So, and then I did my little Happy Days Academy, and again, I did that way more than once, and when I got one that I liked, I just put a couple little pieces of brown behind it for the little legs of the sign, and I thought that would be cute. And then we're going to put the school here, I think with like a little rounded drive. Our depot is over here, and so I may possibly put some swings or slides in this area, but this is also where the train is going to park, and the circus will be up here. So I don't know that there will be any room for that, but that's why I did not put it behind the houses, in case I needed to fill in around the school. If everything fills in nicely, I don't need to do that, but in case I needed a filler, I didn't want a playground up there and a playground by the school. So that is, I've decided not to put a playground behind the houses. So that's how far we've gotten so far. And again, I just kind of told you how I did those, but they're simple enough. And the biggest thing is take your time until you get what you want, and then go ahead and glue them on there. So, oh, and I also I was trying to make a street sign. Whoops, let me get that out of here. So I thought, well, if I could cut something kind of to look like a street sign, to put on the streets, but I didn't like the way it stuck out and everything. But then I was looking at it, so I cut a little tiny strip here. And I thought, that looks like a railroad crossing sign. So I'm going to probably make a little bit of a different one. I need to look it up for sure to make sure I've kind of got it right. And I think it says railroad crossing on there. But that, like I said, I'll have to look that up. But I'm going to put that by my railroad tracks after I look it up. I'll put that out of the way. So what I decided, since I was not going to put a playground here, was to put some shrubs between the houses here. And so the way that I did that was, I have all of these are little pine trees out of foam stamps. And so I was playing around with them. And that's the thing, play around with it before you think you know what you want. Like I knew I wanted to do, like hedges between the houses, so that they each had their own little yard. But I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it. I didn't want the really tall trees, so I chose a couple of short trees and decided that that's how I wanted to do my shrubs, is with these really short trees. So then I played around I pulled out every green that I could find. So I had some color box. That one's chalk. That one's pigment. I have a distress ink and a color box dye. And all of my inks, they're all mismatched because I picked them up at the secondhand store. I picked them up at garage sales. I did some de-stashes on YouTube to just when I started, I didn't have any colors. I believe I had Christmas red and Christmas green and a few Christmas stamps when I started paper crafting. Oh, it's probably been almost 10 years ago now that I started paper crafting. Before that, I did not actually paper craft, but it was something I knew that I could do staying at home, and I really enjoyed it. So, but like I said, so I don't have all the same kind of inks. I don't have all the same, some of them work, some of them are dry, some of them are used up. You just pick it up and try it. But, I probably spent maybe 50 cents to $1 a piece for those instead of going to the craft store and spending $7 or $8. I also find there are certain colors I use a lot and some that I don't. There are some different types of inks that I like. There are some that I don't. I really like the distress inks. I did try a distress oxide somewhere. I don't even remember where. I didn't care for it, but I love the distress inks, just the regular original distress inks. So, yeah, so don't worry about going out and buying a whole bunch of inks. If you have to, take your stamp and color it with a kid's green marker. Breathe on it to make sure it's damp and stamp with it. It works perfectly. Just use a kid's watercolor marker. So, in order to do the trees. I was actually going to, I started trying them out and, you know, just trying the different colors. And like this color ink pad, it's set aside now because it really doesn't work. And the pad itself is kind of weird, so it's like I won't be using that one right now. Maybe I might look into it and see if I can do something to it. But I tried the different kinds of trees with lots of different color inks. And then I kind of decided what I wanted to use. I decided that I wanted to use this little shrub and this little shrub. So then what I did was I cut out each one of them out of paper. And I don't know where those pieces of paper went now because I just tossed them somewhere. But after, what you want to do is you want to stamp whatever you decided, because I want to do shrubs. I want to do one tree behind another, behind another, behind another, like this, okay? But I don't want them, see, I can see the line of this one right across the middle of that one. Well, that's not what it should look like. It should look like it's behind there. And so to do that, you make a mask. So you just stamp out the one that you're going to use and then cut it out. And cut it out fairly carefully because you want it to be pretty exact to what you stamp. So you don't really want it too big or too small, or you'll see the overlap when you stamp one on top of the other. So you want, your mask should always be pretty much the same as what you're stamping. Okay, so then what you're going to do is, I'm going to put this piece of cardboard on top so that we don't have anything soak through. Always try and remember, don't work right on your project when you're doing anything with inks or stamps or anything else, because you don't want it to soak through your paper and get onto your project. So this little stamp is this one. And then I also did this little one. But so what you do then, we've cut that out. I've decided on 2 different colors. And if you do the same color, they blend in so much, it doesn't really look, you don't really notice the difference. So I chose 2 colors that I like together. And again, I tried different colors. Like this is actually 2 colors right here, but it doesn't look like it's 2 colors. So then I just started and I stamped. And so I liked the look of that one. And then I stamped it off a bit so that I kind of got that color off of there. And then I chose this little color here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your mask, line it up on your first tree that you already stamped, really paying attention to how you're lined up at the top, because that's where you're going to stamp on top of it. Excuse me. So we're going to set that one on there. We're going to take our next color and put that on top. Okay, so now it looks like that tree is behind the other. And you don't see that line across there because there isn't one because you had the mask on there. Okay, so then we're going to do the next one. So we're going to line this one up with the one we just stamped. And again, pay attention to line it up as best as you can at the top. Stamp off a little bit and then grab the next color and put that one on. And then just move it up. And you're just going to keep doing this until you get as many as you want. Again, try and line it up as best as you can. I don't always stamp off the light color when I'm going into the darker color, but I do stamp off the darker color, at least I try and remember to, before I do the light color, because I don't want that darkness contaminating my pad, my ink pad. So there we go. We'll make this our last one. And there we go. So now there is our shrubs. And since I was going to do this right on my paper, And I decided that I did not really feel like that was a good idea, because if I messed it up, then I'd have to figure out how to cover it up. So I just went around and I cut out the whole thing. Once I got it cut out, I used a sponge and an ink pad to just go along the edges. I used the light green to go around the edges, because in case there's a little white there when you're cutting it up, I didn't want the white to show, but I didn't want to use the dark green on the light trees, and I knew that the light green would blend in with the darkness, so that would be okay. So I actually have one of these done, but I thought since we just stamped this and I was getting close to the end, I might as well just finish it, just so you can see start to finish what this looks like. And then I did the same thing with the other type shrub, so that both neighbors wouldn't have exactly the same shrub. Get that bit off the bottom. And so there we go. There is our row of shrubs. So then I'm going to glue them down. And I also did take a Sharpie that was a light green, kind of between the two colors, and I just drew around the trees just to give them a touch more distinction, because they were kind of close in color. All right, so let's get that out of here. And we are going to put them between our houses here. Now, at the bottom of the house, the shrubs can be in front of the bottom of the house, because it's at the bottom of the house. It could be right there in front of the house, but as you go back, those shrubs, you know, are further back in the yard, so they would not be in front of the house. So then what you want to do is you want to try in, and what I did was I just kind of stuck my nail in there and did my best to lift those up, and I did have to work at it a little bit. And I did the same over here and lifted up this roof over here. And then I put it in front of the houses at the very bottom, but then kind of tucked it in behind that part of the house and this part of the roof. And so that way we've got this look. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure that I have the right one in the right spot. Whoops, that's the one we just did. So I've already got these ones trimmed down to the right height. And so there we go. That's what they're going to look like. And I'm going to use my stick glue, because it's a permanent stick glue, and I do like this one. So I'm just going to, I'll use this, the back of this scrap paper. Now I'm going to have to be careful to kind of get it where it needs to go before I push it down too much. So I want to line it up here at the bottom, get it behind that house. Lift that roof up just a little bit. I'm going to kind of bend it and get it behind that roof. There we go. So that we have a little bit of dimension, you know, with the roof in front of the trees. Now you also, if you can't get them peeled back up, you can, you know, cut around your tree right there. That's a little bit hard to do. And then what I'm going to also do in the areas where I think, here we go, like this second tree should be behind the house. So I am going to just kind of bring the house edge, because it was only over far enough that I could color on it and you can't see it. If it was like sticking way out, and you drew the line, well, the tree would still be there, so that would not help you any. But, you know, you can just go along and fill in any place where you think the tree is just touching your black line to make your black line very solid. Down here we don't want to, because down here the tree is in front of the house. That's where it starts. Okay, so that's that one. And then we'll get this one on here. And then we'll look at our railroad tracks. And again, this little map can have anything on it that you want. So even though you may not be doing a railroad or, you know, a little subdivision or whatever, you know, some of these tips can help you. Decide, you know, maybe they can help you in some other way. I'm just going to get that one there. Bring it down a little bit. I have it too high. There. And there we go. So now I am going to also, the corner of this, just the corner of the roof got covered up. So I am just going to just draw that back in there and right here. There we go. Alrighty, so now we have little hedgerows between the houses. I think that looks cute. I kind of want to I want to try and put just a little like forest back there. And I think I'm going to try something like this, but I kind of think I want to stamp it on there. So I haven't decided yet for sure, because I am afraid, like I said, when I did this one here, that ink was terrible. But I'll try my inks first. I'll try my trees next to each other. I'll try my colors next to each other, because I really don't like this really kind of brightish green or real like green next to these other lighter greens. You know, so I'll play around with it before I try it. And I may change my mind totally. I might decide that I just don't want to take the chance of ruining that. And I don't know that trying to add a forest like this would work very well, because, you know, I want to like have it coming behind the houses. So we'll see. I'm not sure. And that is something that I will wind up doing, you know, like just sitting down and working with it instead of doing it on the video. So look, there's a little tree that could go right there. That's actually kind of cute. It's, where's my scissors? I lose everything. It's got a little bit of white on it, but I think it's really quite cute. So I am going to just do that. And then maybe, where's my distress ink? It's easier to do it with a sponge. And here it is. I was going to say I had a green sponge. I'm going to just get rid of the white along the edges. And the color is fairly close, but it is not exactly the same color. It's actually this little Hampton Arts is the color of the tree. But just that little bit of darkness gives it a bit of dimension. And I think I really do like that there, so I am going to put it there. And it just fell there. It wasn't supposed to be there. So, you know, sometimes that really does happen, where it's just like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I'm going to come off right over here. You might not be able to see me, but I'm just putting glue on here. And I want it fairly close to the side. And there we go. There's a little shrub next to our sign. So for now, this part is pretty well done. Like I said, I might put some trees there. But I wanted to show you how I'm going to do the railroad tracks. And that's the thing, you know, sometimes I just think, you know, I just sit down and I just think about what could I use for this? What could I use for that? And I was sitting here and I had some scraps of the corrugated cardboard. And I thought those would work for the railroad tracks. So we're gonna open this up, because our tracks are right here. And I'm gonna stick my cardboard underneath so that I can press. And so that if I'm inking or anything like that, which I don't plan on it, but, and also so that when I'm done, I can press them down, just set a book on top to hold them down, because I'm going to use wet glue to do it. Alrighty, so for the railroad tracks, I have the corrugated cardboard, and I have some that has lengths, and I have some that goes this way. I'm going to use this to make the underside railroad ties, and I'm going to use this to make the metal part that goes. Okay, I can cut this off a little bit. So I'm going to cut it off right about here. And that should make it about the right length. Oh yeah, it does, because it crosses the road. Oh yeah, railroad tracks do cross the road. Okay. I was thinking, do I need a bridge or something? Okay, it's just a little bit long, so I'm going to just go ahead and shave off just a touch more. That looks good. Now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try 2 little bits of the corrugation and see how that looks. And then if it doesn't look well, then I can go ahead and cut it down to 1. So I'm just going to line it up and cut it. And so that will go right there. I think that 2 of them are going to be too wide. So now I'm gonna cut 1 and put that up there. Okay, it's a little bit crooked. I don't know where to start in order to hold my scissors the right way. My trimmer just kind of moved over a little bit when I was cutting it. There we go. There, that looks pretty good. Put that one down there. Yep, I think 1 definitely looks good, much better than 2. So I will cut off 1 more. I'm going to turn it around because that one's kind of fuzzy where my trimmer moved. This one's going to have to be, let me see here. I'm going to try and trim it before I take it out, or before I cut the second one. Trim off the edge because it was kind of crooked, and then move it over. There we go. And it doesn't even have to be something like this. I thought it's not that heavy where it's going to really hold my book apart. But it just kind of gives it a little bit of texture, just a little bit of dimension, and I like that. Alrighty, so then I'm going to cut some of these off, and they probably don't need to be. So this is going to be like that, and I'll have to straighten it out because one's kind of bowed. But yeah, definitely this does not need to be this wide. I'm going to kind of cut it right about. First I'm going to cut it so it will fit in my trimmer. And then there is a line on here, and so I'm going to cut it on that line. There we go. So that is very crooked. Watch your lines in your cutter. That will help you, even though it feels like it's straight or looks like it's straight. Always watch those lines. That's how you'll know if you're straight or not. Or it'll give you a little bit of a better judgment. So there we go. Because that was really crooked when I cut it. So there we go. And now I am just going to, because I have the trimmer here, let's see, do I want to do 1, or I'm going to start with 2. Do the same thing like I did with the other. I think still probably we want to do one. Now, this is going to be interesting to see if this actually works to cut between those corrugations and still have them stay together. Yep, still got a little bit of a bump to it. And those will go there. And I think that does look like a good width. Yeah, I like the looks of that. And I do have to say that that's part of the reason I really do like a guillotine out of the cutters. My favorites are the guillotines, but you do have to be careful because you can cut yourself. And you know, if you have the kind that go back and forth like this way, I think once you get used to them, you probably could do this probably almost as fast as I'm doing it here. You know what I mean? I'm just not used to them because the first cutter that I bought on Craigslist, and it was a guillotine cutter. And I got very used to using it. It was a tonic. It is still my main cutter. And then later on I bought the roller kind, and I just don't care for them as well. Which is another reason I wouldn't go out and buy a super expensive, if you've never used a cutter before, don't go buy a super expensive one to start with. Because, you know, I say I like the guillotines better, so you might say, oh, I'll go buy this, you know, it's kind of expensive, but it's the one, you know, Amy really likes those. You may try it and you may not like it. So it doesn't hurt to start out with a cheap one or use somebody else's and see what it is that you like. And then if you want to get a better one, save up for it and get one later. Grab my glue. I think I am going to use tacky glue for this one because the Fabri-Tac grabs quicker, but it also dries very shiny, and I want to just let me see now. I think I'm going to put it on the back of these. Now, the one time I built Papa a little railroad out of wood. I made a little train and train tracks and a depot. It had a ticket window and everything. It really was really cool. And I made a little track on there. Oh, a little water tower. I was very happy with it. And I pretty much was about done with it. I'm just grabbing some of the glue off of one onto the other. We'll let them share. And I'm just going to eyeball this. And it may not be perfectly straight. They may not be perfectly spanned apart. And that is something that you can do however you want to do it. If you want to measure everyone and mark it before you start, that works well too. I'm just a little lazy on it. And so long as I'm not way off, and if I pay attention, then I know I'm not going to be way off. It might be a little off. Sometimes it'll run on an angle. We'll just pretend that the train tracks went that way. But I was telling you, I put Grandpa's, I was building him this little wood train set. And I looked at it after I was all done. It might have even been my husband that mentioned it. And I put the railroad ties on top of the railroad tracks. And my husband, I think it was my husband, because he looked at it and went, so like, how's the train supposed to go across the tracks when they're under the ties? So I had to luckily, I had used a good glue to put the whole tracks together and everything. And so I was able to lift the whole train tracks, the tracks and the railroad ties, all off in one piece, and then just flip it over. And And luckily it fit that way too, because it wasn't it was a round track, but it wasn't perfectly round. It was kind of built to follow the edges of the wood plaque it was on. Well, it was a wood cut off piece of log, but yeah, so remember that your railroad ties go under the tracks. And if you did it wrong, it doesn't really matter. It's all about, I always say this, if you can tell what it is, then it doesn't matter if it's off for some reason or another. They got the gist of it. There we go. That's coming along nicely. It takes a little while, and I'm not really rushing right this second either. I'm in a very kind of laid back mood this morning. Well, I don't usually rush with my crafting either, but I do sometimes kind of try to make these videos go faster, just so that you're not here forever. And this morning I'm just kind of just enjoying myself. And that's what it's supposed to be all about. It's just supposed to, crafting in general, creating anything, it's supposed to be about the enjoyment of it. It's not even about the final product. And a lot of times I think that that's more what we're worried about than kind of the reason we're creating something in the first place. I create to keep my mind busy, because my mind stays really busy all on its own, but not in the way I want it to. And so by creating, it makes me think about what I'm doing. You know, I need to think about, are those about the same, since I'm just eyeballing it? You know, and pay attention to what I'm doing, and yet I enjoy what I'm doing. So if you enjoy creating, this is a really good way to get your mind off of things. And if you enjoy reading, you know, whatever it is that you enjoy that makes you concentrate on what you're doing versus, you know, letting your mind run, it really does. It helps if you've got that mind that just wants to run all on its own. And sometimes about things that make absolutely no sense, but, you know, that's one of the real, and of course now it's a thing, like, you know, creating for stress. I think partly because of, you know, what we went through for the last couple of years. But I've always done this since I was a kid. You know, I mean, I have always created. I still have things, I still have art supplies from when I was a kid, believe it or not, because I'm a hoarder. But I have always created. And when I was a kid, there was no such thing as ADD, but I had it. It wasn't something they really talked about back then. And actually, I guess I can't say I had it. I should say I have it. But we all have something. Alrighty, so this is our last one. There we go. And now all we need to do is put our tracks on top, and I think I'm going to just run a bead of glue right. I was going to put one on each, a dot on each one of there. When I picked this up, it was like, this would be much easier. And, you know, your wet glue, because this is not just a piece of paper, the wet glue is going to work better. Trying to do this with a stick glue would stick it down. And it is paper, but it's also dimensional paper, so it might not want to stay very well. And there are actually lines on my paper, so I'm going to line this up with those lines. Whoops. And there we go. Yeah, and this is not that dimensional that it will make that big of a difference in my map. And it has a little bit of a bow in it, so just kind of tap it down. Because it's wet glue, sometimes you have to hold it for just a bit. Make sure that it's staying where you want it to stay before you set something heavy on it. This one definitely needs to move over a little bit. I can see the line underneath. There we go. And there we go. And, don't let it get to you that it's popping up and, you got to press it back down. Just relax and just put it back down there. There, I think that looks pretty good. My train will drive on that. Alrighty, so there we go. I kind of like where that is at. It is holding, it's kind of holding itself. You want it so that it's kind of holding itself. If you leave it, it may pop up, but before you put the book on it, you want to make sure that you've got it where you want it and it's kind of staying there so that when you put your parchment on and then put your book on, it doesn't move before you get a chance to get those two things on there to hold it where you want it. So I usually kind of just press it until I know it's kind of going to stay there for at least a few minutes until I get my parchment and my book on it. So that's what we have for today. And like I said, next time I think we'll come back and we'll do one of the pages. If there's a page you want to start with, we've got the hardware, the art store, the fashion store, the toy store, the candy store, the school, the circus, the railroad, the farm, and the lake. Those are going to be our pages. So if there's one of those pages that you would like to start with, you can leave that comment below, and whichever one has the most votes, that might be the one that I do. We'll have to see, because I never really know what I'm going to do. But thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I hope that if you're making your own map, that you enjoy what you're doing with it, no matter what it may be. Thanks again for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.